This conference will now be recorded.
We will be posting this on our YouTube channel as well as the city's Facebook page for future reference. So again, we appreciate all of you coming through and signing up for this. We hope to accomplish here just getting everyone familiar with what we need in order to move forward and continue reopening. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Terrazas-Baxter.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me all right, Alexis? Okay, great. So once again, just want to introduce myself. I'm Rebecca Terrazas-Baxter. I'm from the Executive Office here at the County of Imperial. I want to thank the City of Imperial for hosting this virtual town hall and for being flexible with us. I know we've changed the schedule on them a few times. We apologize for that. We've had some last minute updates from the governor's office, and so we also had to change our schedule a little bit and do some last minute press conferences and so forth. So thank you all for your patience and for attending today. As Alexis kind of talked about a little bit earlier, what we are here today to do as far as my role is to go over a little bit with you as far as the county's roadmap, where we're at, recent information that we got from the governor and our health officer order that was released last night. So just to give you guys a general overview of our dashboard, this can be located at our public health department's website, icphd.org. And I just want to give you guys a little bit of what the outlook looks like here in Imperial County right now. We're looking at, give me a second. We're looking at 9,785 patients that are tested, 8,433 negative cases, 1,352 positive cases. Currently, our active cases are 619. Some good news recently, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but our recovered numbers have surpassed our active cases. So we have 709 that have recovered. Unfortunately, for Imperial County, we have experienced some deaths. So, you know, we just want to make sure that we keep all of those people in mind and their families in mind as we're going through this, and express our condolences to them as well, because everybody is being impacted by this. So let's always keep that in mind. I think that it's important to share this information so that you all understand why why we're making the decisions that we are. The state has established a framework on reopening that they refer to as the California's Resilience Roadmap, and that includes 4 stages. Stage 1 is safety and preparedness, which basically is what we're doing, what we did before at only stay at home, you know, that allowed us all the time to build out our testing capacity, acquire the proper PPE, and make it available for our employees and so forth. And all of you assisted with that. So we want to thank you all for that. Stage 2, which is our lower risk workplaces, is actually, it's gradually reopening some of our lower risk workplaces with adaptations and modifications, as I'm sure some of you have already seen happening. This actually includes 2 phases of this one stage. So the first phase is lower risk, and then the second phase of this stage is higher risk, which I'll refer to as 2A and 2B as we continue with our discussions. The state did allow us recently some leniency and some ability to proceed further into stage 2 and going into our higher risk. However, we cannot do so unless we meet the metrics that the state has set for us. And we have to meet those metrics and submit a county variance report exhibiting that we met those metrics. And I'll go over briefly some of those metrics in a little bit. Stage 3 is the higher risk workplaces. I'm sure some of you are familiar with those. Those are currently gymnasiums, personal care establishments, recreational venues. And I say currently because the governor is kind of making changes to the stages on a daily basis, and I'll refer to that shortly as well. And then stage 4 is ending our stay-at-home order. Currently, Imperial County is at the lower risk of stage 2. So we are working hard to meet our variance. We are meeting one of 2 metrics. There are 6 different metrics. We're meeting one of 2 within the epidemiological stability. One is in progress, that's the testing positivity over the past 7 days that we are working on. The state does require that we are at 8% or lower, but currently Imperial County is at 28%. And I believe Katie will probably go into this a little bit later, but it would be helpful as a community for all of us to work towards lowering that test positivity rate if we encourage people to go out and get tested. There's the testing site out at the Fairgrounds. It is no out-of-pocket expense for the individual who is getting tested. So the more people we can get tested, actually, the better, because the more negatives we get, those that aren't exhibiting symptoms and so forth, hopefully they will come out negative, and the more negatives we get, it helps our numbers. So just want to share that with you, and I'll let Katie elaborate on that later. The vulnerable populations are also currently in progress through the work that we're doing with the skilled nursing facilities. So those are two of the metrics there that we're kind of struggling at. But other than that, the rest of them we have met. We've met the protection of essential workers, testing, hospital capacity, and containment capacity. So we feel that we're in a good place, and we're moving towards progress, and we hope to get there soon to be able to move on to stage 2B. But who knows, maybe the governor might change that hopefully in a good way and decide to reopen. Who knows? We do want you to keep in mind, though, that this is a fluid and ever-changing situation. A prime example of that are the updates that the governor released on Monday, changing the scenery by moving certain industries into different stages. One of the things he did was he moved retail and religious gatherings to stage 2 lower risk, and that was the announcement that we made yesterday with the amended health officer order. And he also moved barbershops and hair salons to stage 2 higher risk. So those were some of the recent changes he made. Due to this, as I said, we amended our health officer order yesterday to reflect those changes and to allow some additional flexibility for local businesses that the governor has provided to us. There is some industry guidance for COVID-19 that is required for those retail and religious organizations, but specifically, I'm going to focus on retail right now, that have to be met. And I believe that Jeff will probably expand on this soon, but I just want to briefly go over those 6 key things. One of them is a worksite specific protection plan, which I know Jeff will elaborate on. The employee and volunteer training, individual control measures, and screening, cleaning and disinfecting protocols, physical distancing guidelines, and special considerations as well. So as we move forward with reopening little by little and loosening our restrictions, I think it's important that we need to minimize the threat due to our testing positivity numbers. So we must remember that we still have to manage this risk, because take it away from us, and then we might have to go back to stage 1. So let's all keep that in mind. Thank you all for your time. I hope that you found that this information is helpful, and I'm happy, and I'll continue to be here if you guys have questions after the rest of the presentations.
Thank you, Rebecca. And so I'm now going to ask Mr. Lamore if he would like to present his section. And if you need to, Mr. Lamore, you're able to share your screen as well.
Thank you. I'm not going to share a screen. Thank you for unmuting me there. I will go ahead and move into the specifics with regards to the worksite specific protection plan. And as already alluded to, there's 6 key components that go into moving into the reopening phase, and that was already been covered by Rebecca, so I won't go back over that. But one of those key things is the worksite specific protection, or worksite specific plan. And in the industry guidance documents, you'll see that it's one of the key elements in most of the guidance. There's a couple of guidance documents that are provided, such as like childcare. They don't go specifically into that. They don't require the worksite specific plan, but for the majority of them, they do. And in this, and Katie can elaborate a little bit on this as well. This document, obviously, this has been put together through collaborations with the with the chambers, the joint chambers, the Business Recovery Task Force, and the LHA, the Local Health Authority Commission. So collectively, we put this document together, and what you have, there are some key components in that, starting with the measures to protect employee health. With that, there are some key components with that. They need to identify what measures are put in place, such as face masks, face coverings, that the business is identifying those key elements to it. I see that Alexis is now putting that up. That's great. Thank you. So this document, let me back up a second. This document is available, I believe, well, it definitely is available on the public health website. You can access it there. We've put it on the main the COVID-19 page. Is just below the county's recovery plan. And there's a box for that, or a link for that plan, so you can download it there. I know that through the chambers, this document has been sent out to a number of businesses. I believe all of the chambers should have access to this, and hopefully they have posted it. It's available through the joint chambers, so it's readily available. If anybody has a difficulty locating it, please feel free to send me an email. I'm happy to forward this to you or direct you to the link for that. So it is available. Again, this document, we've created a guidance document to hopefully help businesses out versus having them having to recreate this. There are a number of businesses that may already have this plan in place. They don't necessarily need our guidance document if they already have a plan in place, a site-specific plan. A lot of the chain retail facilities already have they've already developed this type of document. That's sufficient. The key is that they have a worksite specific protection plan in place. And that is needed as part of reopening. And the key with that is also that they have it available, they have it posted. We are working on a poster that would make it a little more user friendly, so that not necessarily having to post 8 to 10 pages in a very visible area, but just posting the poster, placing the poster up either at the main entrance area or an area where the public is more common, walks through the area, that at least that they're aware this plan is in place. In addition to that, the plan should be placed in an employee break room, so the employees are aware of it. And the purpose of the plan is threefold. One, obviously, is required as through the industry guidance requirements, but also it provides a level of comfort to employees. Employee knowing that the business owners have gone through thoughtfully, mindfully develop a plan to address any preventative measures that need to be implemented to ensure their safety and to minimize the exposure or spread of COVID-19. But in addition to that, there's also the customer side of it. So customers are going to be reluctant to go into some of these businesses, or maybe a good portion of the businesses, because they don't know what these businesses have, what measures they put in place. So having some type of identifier at the front door, welcoming customers to come in, informing them that, or at least they can see that there has been some preventative measures that have been implemented, and that the business has been thoughtful as to how they've developed that, and there's obviously to ensure their safety, their customer safety, but also the employee and management safety as well. So that's the whole premise behind all of this. And so now I'll go ahead and go into the worksite specific plan in itself. So the first section is what I just covered, the signage. This document or a component of it needs to be posted. It needs to be in a visible area. It can be posted in if there is an area where the employees are gathering, it can be posted there. It can be posted in an area so the customers can see that this is available. Again, it can be posted at the front door. We want to create a poster, and hopefully it will take its place and make it easily accessible that way. Regardless, it needs to be posted. The second part is as I mentioned earlier, the measures to protect employee health. So you're going to identify if there's modifications to your operational hours. You're going to indicate your operational hours. If there's screening that's going to take place, it will identify what screening will be taking place, whether it be for employees, whether it be screening at the site or screening at home. It identifies how that will be done. It also, again, as I mentioned earlier, it covers the idea of having face coverings, who would be required to have face coverings and who wouldn't. if there's any additional barriers that need to be implemented or preventative measures that need to be implemented, barriers around the register area, things like that. Again, it covers employee safety and health. The second section gets into the measures to protect customer safety. So again, it may be barriers that you identify barriers or preventative measures that you would implement there within the facility. So if it's a dining area, for example, there may be partitions that are placed up in between booths. Again, trying to ensure that you're achieving that 6-foot separation, but there may be some common areas that it can't quite necessarily meet that, and there may be some other alternatives that we may consider if we want to look at prior to those being implemented. But there may be some options that one could consider to meet that having some type of physical barrier versus if they can't meet that social distancing requirement. So going through, looking at those, making sure there's adequate hand washing services available. So again, if it's a retail store, that they have adequate supplies of hand towels and paper towels and disposable paper towels and soap. They have obviously running water for that. They have sufficient hand sanitizer stations available, or hand sanitizer available to the employees, and possibly at the entrances for the public. At least they've identified where those are located. They've also, if there's other specific preventative measures that one would want to implement that is specific to their business, they would identify that in that optional section, and they would list that information there and check that box. Section C covers the measures to protect customer safety. So it's similar. It looks at it covers the maximum occupancy. So some facilities there will be limitations to occupancy levels. So they'll indicate that if there's for example, for the retail businesses that are currently operating now that have been allowed to operate, there is an occupancy restriction to 50% occupancy. So based on their maximum occupancy being determined by the building official, they would indicate what the 50% portion would be, and then they would indicate that information there in that section. If they are receiving customers or they have visitors coming into the business, how those customers would come in, ensuring that there would be markers for social distancing, identifiers for social distancing. If it's a customer, having those preventative barriers in place, like a plexiglass there at the register, or other prevention barriers that are readily in place to ensure the safety of not only the customer but the employee. Also, they talk about the touch-free payment devices. One of the questions that we discussed last week was, are they still going to take regular currency? Yes, they can still take regular currency. We really try to encourage businesses, if they have the ability to move to a touch-free payment system, to encourage them to do that. But again, if their option right now at this point in time is to still take regular currency, then they can continue to do that. But again, then they want to address how they would do that. So they want to make sure that if they are utilizing gloves, that they know the proper measures for using gloves, so that they're handling money or exchanging pins or things like that with customers, that before they go on to the next task, after they've finished serving that customer, they're going to discard those gloves, wash hands before they go on to the next activity. Making sure that if they do have touch-free devices, that they are sanitizing them at a necessary frequency. If they are providing pins or writing equipment or things like that, that they are sanitized. They have a plan in place to address that, to sanitize that equipment and so forth. So again, it's making sure that there's adequate preventative measures or protective measures in place for the customers. There's those high contact surface areas going through the facility, and they've identified a certain frequency when they'll go in and assign an individual on staff to go through the facility and wipe down those high contact surfaces, maybe doorknobs, counter areas, things like that. So they've mindfully gone through and identified all those areas and have set up a cleaning frequency for those. And that's what this plan kind of helps him outline. And it's going to be specific, and it's going to be unique to the specific business. The next measure goes into D, which is measures to keep people at least 6 feet apart. So what type of mechanisms do you have in place to do that? Is it signage? Is it markings on the floor? Using the using tape. It may be just having actually an individual out there ensuring that people are following those guidelines. So that's especially if you have a type of business where you may have a large number of people that are trying to come in and having them stage outside, or having a number of individuals staged outside. It's really important that not only we're mindful of social distancing inside the facility, but also we're mindful of social distancing outside the facility. So having those markers out there. And then again, with our wonderful summers, it gets quite hot here. So being also, aware of that. I know everybody's aware of that, but just being mindful about having, if we need to have shade coverings for areas where people are waiting to enter the facility, that may be something you want to factor in as well. With that, you may also want to consult with your respective building officials if you are going to put some type of whether it be shade structures out in areas where it may partially occupy the sidewalks. Make sure that the building officials are on board with that. There's not an issue with that. Also, when we eventually go into transition over to the indoor dining, there most likely there's going to be restrictions with regards to limitations on the occupancy of the indoor dining, and that will most likely then trigger individuals or businesses wanting to expand their outdoor dining areas. And this is something we definitely want to support, but again, they should consult with their building official to ensure that if they can expand their outdoor dining areas, and oftentimes they may want to expand it into the parking areas, that is something that the building official are aware of, that they accept. There may be some emergency zoning modifications that need to be implemented, so that's a discussion that needs to be had sooner than later with the building officials, depending on your area and what you're proposing to do with regards to your business. So just keep that in mind as well. Moving on to section E, the food-related measures to prevent unnecessary contact. This is more in line with some of our convenience stores that may have, like our fast food stores, gas station, things like that, where they may have bars there where individuals, condiment bars, where individuals can help themselves to various condiments. That is not going to be allowed, but what they can do is have single service packets available for the public to grab for whatever food item they're purchasing. So keep that in mind. Businesses may want to consider having these types of products behind the counter so they can hand them out individually to customers to minimize again, contact, or at least having that mechanism to clean those areas at a higher frequency if it's a high contact area. Same thing with the soda dispensing machines, making sure that those items that are being handled, there's a high frequency of contact with the lids and the straws. How they're going to control that to minimize contact, but also how ensuring that people aren't taking, and I mentioned this last time, they're not taking a second drink. Oftentimes, a lot of people have a tendency to fill up their drinks and in turn take a drink and then go back to fill that up to top it off. Again, coming in contact, there's saliva that's coming in contact with the cup itself. If they spin that around and hit the metal depressor, then the saliva, their body fluids are coming in contact with the depressor on the soda dispensing machine. We want to minimize that because the person coming right behind them can also fill up on that same dispenser, and things can be transferred that way. So just be mindful of that they're wiping that down regularly, that there's signage that's posted, that there should not be anybody, there should be a single fill, there's no refills, just making sure they've kind of thought through that process. The last section is section F, measures to increase sanitation. So it's just the cleaning protocols, making sure that there's adequate cleaning protocols throughout the facility. If you have in your business a common break room, restrooms, or other types of facilities, where you can limit those, such as a break room, if the employee can eat at their desk, that would be preferred versus having a common break room. If it's just not practical for them to eat at their desk, they need to have that common break room. Then making sure that you have adequate social distancing in those areas. They may want to consider, and that would be obviously described in your plan, you may want to consider then having lunches breaks at staggered. Depending on the type of business that it is, that may be possible. If not, making sure that there's a plan in place for the cleaning of that area at a frequency to ensure that it's cleaned after each and every use. There may be things where you may have a common coffee bar that's currently being provided to employees. At this point in time, it would make good sense to decommission that or to remove that. If it's a need that it has to be there, then make sure that you again have incorporated the cleaning of that in a certain frequency to minimize cross-contamination with regards to that, or spread of COVID with regards to that, or any illness associated with that. For those areas where you can minimize that, if you can eliminate things like that, that would be great. A lot of facilities, or a number of facilities, have microwaves, heating equipment, convection ovens, toaster ovens. Again, same concept. They want to make sure they're wiping those down at a frequency to minimize spread. And it really should be after every use. I've been to a couple facilities where they will have, some of the facilities have a number of microwaves because they have a large number of staff. The staff are doing a great job. They'll come in and wash hands prior to going in and grabbing their lunch, but then they all head to the microwave to heat up their lunch, and they're all touching the same device and then going through and beginning to serve their lunch. So again, it's kind of thinking what they need to do prior to that. They should be, after they touch that, they should go back, wash hands before they start consuming food. So it's just kind of making sure you sit down with your employees as part of the training aspect of that, going through with the employees, make sure they understand what measures they should be doing for hand washing and to safeguarding themselves during these types of breaks. That pretty well covers it with regards to the worksite specific protection plan. Again, it is a plan that is required as part of the guidance criteria, but also, again, this template that we have for those businesses that don't have anything in place, this is a good tool that they could utilize to put that in place. If a business already has one or wants to go into greater detail and develop their own, they're perfectly capable of doing that, and that's fine too. Again, we're there to provide whatever services we can. If a business is concerned with regards to what preventative measures they've put in place or would like to put in place, by all means, they should contact us. I sent out an email to the city managers last night. I'd like to see if we could work with some of their designated employees or designated staff who would then also assist with providing that service within their respective areas. So collectively, we'd have a team available to answer questions and go out and do site assessments and provide guidance. And again, not wearing the regulatory hat, but going in and just providing guidance, making recommendations to businesses on what it is that they need to do to have that safe reopening that they're wanting to have. That's it.
So much, Jeff. I know that was a lot of information, and we're getting some questions coming in through the chat box. So again, for those of you that may have joined a little bit later, we will be answering the questions received in the chat during Q&A following the presentations. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Katie Luna with the Brawley Chamber of Commerce and Imperial Valley Business Recovery Task Force.
Hey everyone, good afternoon. I am going to pull up our task force website here so we can look at what we have. The Business Recovery Task Force was put together at the start of the COVID crisis or pandemic that's been happening. And the overarching goal of the task force is to provide a communication platform for the business community and the county to have this two-way conversation about the needs that are going to arise out of this situation. And we've been effective to date with trying to understand the changes that are happening daily from the state and how that translates into our community. So one of the things Jeff just went over, the worksite specific plan, and that is one of the things we've been able to accomplish. So that right there is a tool for you. I know I put my business hat on, and it's a lot of information to absorb. And I'm thinking, as Jeff is going through it, is I need to remind everyone that this is a check all that apply. So you don't have to check off each one if they don't apply. You just have to check what applies to your business. So don't gloss over with your eyes and think, oh my gosh, this is crazy. It's meant to be a helpful tool for you in your business. So, excuse me. I want to talk about our pledge and the reason why we have a pledge at this point in time. So we know that thanks to the information that Rebecca shared, we know that we have an issue in our community that is preventing us from moving forward with opening. And that is one particular metric, which is the positivity rate. The positivity rate tells us how quickly this is spreading in our community, how quickly COVID is spreading in our community. We need to bring that rate down. The rate that the state is asking for is 8% or less. We are at 20, I think it was 28%, 29% in the last couple of days. And that is really the metric that is holding us up. So what does that say? That says to me, as putting my business hat on, that we need to engage our community to support the businesses in the Valley by helping us bring that number down, helping us bring the spread of COVID to a reasonable standpoint. And I know as soon as I say this, I get the argument of, well, it's a border issue. Look, it's not a border issue, it's a Valley issue, okay? We have, here I am in Brawley, we have more than 100 cases in Brawley. I live in Heber, we have 30 plus something cases in Heber. It's a Valley issue just as much as it is a border issue. And so we want to encourage the community to take ownership and take responsibility and help us bring that number down so we can get our businesses open. The flip side of it is this: as a business owner who needs healthy employees, it doesn't benefit any of us to have sick employees, doesn't benefit us to have sick consumers. So we really need to get behind the message of everyone working together to bringing down the spread of COVID. Another way to tackle that positivity rate is we need as many people as possible to go take a test. If you're healthy, take a test. If you're sick, take a test. We need that testing to happen. So here we have our pledge. You can go to our website, ivybizrecovery.com. And the main message we're sending out at this point is we're enlisting the help of the public to bring down the spread of COVID so we can move on to that next stage. So they can go to our website, they can take the pledge. And here's what the pledge says. It says, I pledge to support local business. 100%, absolutely, we want everyone to support local business. I pledge to abide by the standards outlined by the business I frequent. What's the point of this item is, as you, the business owner, as you're implementing new practices in your business to keep your employees safe, to keep yourself safe, we want the community to recognize that this is an added layer of difficulty to do business, and we want the community to respect that and to, when they come to your business, to put on their respectful hat and follow the guidelines that you're establishing for your business. We have heard in other states that there's been some issues with the community going into businesses and not following the rules. So we want our community to support our local businesses by abiding by the standards that you're outlining for your businesses. I'm sorry, for your consumers. I pledge to protect my community by taking responsibility for my actions. Goes along with the same sentiments. Pledge to wash my hands according to the CDC recommendations. Plain and simple. Pledge to wear my face covering properly when visiting businesses. And I pledge to respect social distancing of 6 feet and refrain from gathering in groups. So we're just trying to re-emphasize the messaging that's out there already and asking our community to take ownership for their actions. And so lastly, I pledge to do my part and make a difference for Imperial Valley. And so this is our pledge to date. Here we are, we'll refresh this screen here, but we have, looks like 104 folks who have taken the pledge, 105, 44 from El Centro, 16 from Brawley, 12 from Calexico. And so we're getting a small traction on this. We're hoping to increase this and really spread this message countywide that we need our public to support our businesses. And if we can bring that number down, I may be speaking out of turn, Rebecca, correct me if I'm wrong, but if we can bring that number down to a reasonable, maybe not get to 8%, but if we can bring it down within a reasonable range, I believe the state would be more willing to work with us to move forward in moving on to the next stage. I'm really concerned about our stage 3 businesses, our stage 4 businesses. If you are stage 3 or stage 4, let's figure out how we're going to get you resources to make sure that when the time comes, you're going to be able to reopen. We don't want to lose businesses in the valley. There's resources out there, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure your business is still able to thrive once you can open again. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Bill. Bill Gay is also leadership on the task force. And Bill, if you have additional information, take it away.
Sure. And thank you. And I want to thank the City of Imperial for setting up this town hall. I think it's very, very constructive. And Katie did a great job in outlining what we have. One of the things that we would like to do with this pledge, and one opportunity for business, would be to maybe use this, if you agree with it and would like to push it on to your customers, use this as a promotional tool. Somebody can bring a copy of the pledge in and get a discount for whatever you wish to give a discount for, or something like that that would help, that would identify the business and help promote the pledge, and you'd be making a comment regarding the safety of the public at the same time. So please use this as a tool that maybe it would help build traffic for you as you can open, or if you can't, if hopefully we'll get to that stage 3 one of these days, and that pledge will still be around too. So you can think of it in that regard, kind of think creative. The other thing we're doing, we know that PPE material is important to businesses, and we are looking for low-cost PPE equipment, PPE materials. So contact the, I'll give away Katie's telephone number. What is it? 344-3160, I believe, at the Brawley Chamber of Commerce. But if you have questions regarding PPE material, email us, or you can email me, bill.gay@reliancepr.com, or you can email Katie also at the Brawley Chamber, and we can maybe help you try to find where you can get the material at lower costs. So with that, I guess I want to conclude my part by saying that I want to thank the county and all the folks who have been really working so hard on this. It was said at the beginning that there are a lot of changes. I think early on in this crisis, somebody said, and I've kind of adopted it as a statement about what we're going through, that this pandemic is like flying an airplane while it's being invented. And so there will be changes coming down. There's going to be a lot of things happening, but the Business Recovery Task Force is going to be working very hard to represent the interests of business regarding this in this pandemic. So I'll kick it back.
Thank you so much, Bill and Katie. Katie, any further comments? Otherwise, we'll.
Yeah, just real quick. I wanted to touch on, the poster was mentioned a couple times. We are finalizing that. We should have that within the week. And that poster is for businesses to be able to put on their window. That basically is an indicator to the consumer that you have a plan in place, that you have taken measures to protect consumer safety and health, and as well as your employees. And so we're hoping that with that visual in the window or at your front door, that businesses or that the customers will feel at ease, and they'll be able to walk into your business with more confidence. And so That I think indicate the visual indicator from that poster is going to be beneficial as we move forward and we encourage folks to go out and spend their dollars in the community. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, both to Katie and Bill with the Recovery Task Force. I'm now going to ask Meredith Garcia with the IBS-BDC to go over some of the resources that are available to businesses and information.
Ready. Hello, I'm Meredith Garcia. I'm the director with Imperial Small Business Development Center. So I want to thank City of Imperial for having this opportunity. I think this is great. We have learned a lot with all the resources. The Small Business Development Center, we are part of the Business Recovery Task Force as part of our local effort to continue to collaborate and having all these resources. To promote and to provide more information about what we do, the Small Business Development Center, we are a resource partner with the U.S. Small Business Administration, with the SBA. We are not the SBA, but we collaborate and work together. And we offer counseling services and trainings and workshops for business owners, for new businesses and for existing businesses. All of our services are confidential and are at no cost for our business community. We are currently working online, having virtual meetings with our clients in order to support and provide all the information that you need as a business owner. Part of the programs that we are helping is with the access to capital. So part of having this conversation with other resource partners, it's also about what is available, what is out there for me to helping me to get through and have the funding available to reopen or to meet your financial obligations that right now we're having this big hardship through COVID-19. So the U.S. Small Business Administration is having different programs to provide resources for small businesses, in which one of the programs that we have been able to work with our clients, it's the Paycheck Protection Program, in which it's funding available through local lenders and other lenders. It's a loan program to help you with your payroll. This program can help you to access this funding to cover your payroll expenses and other business expenses, but it's more related to payroll. For more information, we can go ahead and just, if you have any questions, just send me over a quick email and I can guide you through the program. This is a great resource that it is available that the Small Business Administration is providing. Also, there is one other program, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. This program for now is only open for agriculture businesses. So this is an online platform with SBA that you can access up to $2 million and the interest rate is 3.75% to help you with working capital. And also if right now that we're talking about that we're moving on the reopening phase and that you need funding to cover your personal protection equipment and other investment that you may have, this is part of the programs that you can access. But also I do want to talk about other programs. We work with all the available funding resources just to make sure that we have the information available for our clients. We work with other financing. We work with Acción. We work with CDC Small Business Finance. We work with all the available lenders to make sure that we have the emergency relief programs available. If you have any questions or if you're looking for funding, please let us know and we can guide you and we can just provide you all the information that you're going to need to access any capital funding. So this is part of the Small Business Development Center. I want to share that's possible. It's not.
Go ahead and try one more time, Meredith.
Yeah, it's not letting me. Well, it's fine. I can send you the link. So to access our services, like I mentioned, we are currently working virtually. We have on-demand webinars at no cost in different topics for our business owners. So these are online classes that you can go ahead and just access to. For requesting information or services, we do have our phone number in our website and access template to request counseling. So this is working. We're working with you. I just want to make sure that if you have any question, anything that you may need, please let us know and we can facilitate and help you through any part of the process. If it's access to capital, if it's having how to maximize your funding and other questions that you may have. We understand that as small business owner right now, there is a lot of concerns and there is a lot of uncertainty going on, but this is why we're here. So we're here to help you. We're part of this community, and just let us know, and my team and I were ready to answer all the questions that you may have.
Thank you so much. And we'll make sure at the end of this for all the attendees that we'll be sending out the materials, links, and contact information. So that way, if there's any follow-up questions or clarification, that you all have access to those subject matter experts and resources that are needed. I am going to circle back to Rebecca briefly with the County of Imperial. Rebecca, can you talk about the recent public benefits program that the County Board of Supervisors funding opportunity that came about?
Yeah, so actually, maybe about 2 weeks ago, the Imperial County Board of Supervisors developed it's a loan program, and it's called the Imperial County Business Stabilization Lending Program, I believe. And I think you might be able to see my screen, I'm not sure. But if you can, you'll see that right here on our homepage, which is imperialcounty.org or co.imperial.ca.us. Under what's new comes up Imperial County Business Stabilization Lending Program. You click on there and it gives you a brief description of the program itself. The board, what they did was they used our community benefit program, which is funding that we receive from solar projects that develop here locally, contribute to this funding source in order for us to be able to fund and support different programs that help and improve the quality of life for our community. And so with that funding, they developed this program and dedicated $500,000 to provide small business loans. I believe the maximum amount that you can apply for is $10,000. They're low interest loans. I believe there is a forgiveness clause that is also included in here. And so in that page where I showed you that you go to, if you go scroll down, you'll see here that there are the program guidelines and the application form. My understanding is there is no application deadline. So we are still receiving applications. We have received a lot of interest in applications so far, but I do want to encourage all of you to apply if this is something that you feel is needed to help you guys through this. I know that as you are looking to reopen, there will likely be, in addition to the current expenses that you have, some more expenses when it comes to extra sanitation supplies. If you end up getting any other supplies that you might need in order to increase the sanitation procedures or safety precautions that we need to take in our various workplaces. So just want to let you know that if that additional help is needed, it is there. I believe that the committee will likely be meeting, the selection committee will likely be meeting towards the end of this week or early next week. So if you are interested, I encourage you to apply and apply soon. My understanding is the application is not too lengthy, nor too difficult. But if you have any questions, you can always call the county executive office and you can speak with Rosa Lopez or Vanessa Salcido, and either one of them will be happy to answer your questions. And we can be reached at 442-265-1001.
I have a quick note on that too, just because this question has come up, and I guess just to point out that this non-discrimination policy is part of the application form. So you'll need to print that out and sign it and submit it, or do a digital signature and submit it with your application. So just don't overlook that link there.
Yes, that as well. Thanks for pointing that out, Katie.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for going into that, Rebecca and Katie, with some of the comments there at the end of it. I would at this time like to introduce Susan Paratus, the Director for the Imperial Chamber of Commerce, and what the Chamber is doing for the Imperial Business Community specifically.
There we go. Can you hear me now? Okay. So first of all, thank you to the city and everyone who's participated and putting this together. I think we're making great strides, much quicker than I thought. So I am very grateful and very appreciative. Second, I would just like to remind, and I'm very excited to see so many of the businesses that are members of the chamber participating in this. It's very good to see that. I just want to remind everyone that the chamber is here for you. We have had great success in getting our members real-time supplies and necessities, usually within 2 to 3 hours. So if you have a need for any supplies for PPE or anything else, the Imperial Chamber is here. Just call or email, and our members are helping each other to share products. So we're happy to put you in touch or pick them up and deliver them safely, of course. And the second thing is the plans that have been unveiled with respect to getting ready to open your business. If you have any questions or concerns, or you need assistance in doing that, give me a call. I would be happy to help you work through that, because it is lengthy and sometimes can be overwhelming. But the Imperial Chamber is here for you, and we are super excited to see this next step in reopening our businesses. And hopefully we have shared, and we reached over 20,000 people on getting tested, whether you're exposed or not, for your own security, just get tested. So that's been real encouraging, and we will continue to spread that message. And we appreciate, again, all the experts that came today to put this together. And thank you to the city, to Alexis. I know you've had a lot going on with these meetings, and I appreciate you being tenacious and keeping us up to date. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susan. So as far as the program goes, that does conclude the presentations part. We have received some questions through the chat, so feel free, if something's come up through the course of this, if there's some questions you'd like answered. Again, it's in the top right corner. There's a little chat bubble. Please click that. You can submit it to me directly or for the group if there's anything that's come up that you want answered. For the meantime, we'll go through a few that we've received thus far, and I'll leave it to those that presented to kind of answer these. Jeff and Becky, I do think these are going to be geared more towards you. What happens if we open outside of the state's or county restrictions?
So I'll leave that to Jeff, actually.
I mean, obviously, we want people to follow. We want businesses to follow in line with what the county is doing, which is in line with what the state. If we have a business that may open, or if a business opens and if they have licensing or registrations through the state, they need to be aware that they could be subject to fines or penalties from the state. They could be subject to permits or registration revocations from the state. So that is something, and that we have heard a number in a number of jurisdictions that actually has happened. If, for example, if we have a food facility that decides they want to go ahead and open indoor dining, if they have a bar, if there's a bar component to their business, then they could be subject to that bar license being revoked, and that would be through ABC. If we have right now we're in the low risk phase 2. If we have a barber shop or beauty salon that decides they want to open before we transition over to the high risk phase 2 or stage B, that's, again, they run that risk of being notified by the State Department of Cosmetology and Barbering that they could be subject to a fine. They could be subject to for their licensing to be suspended or revoked. So there are, from the locals' perspective, it would be up to that local jurisdiction if they're going to enforce that. The various city police departments, their code enforcement officials, if they're going to enforce that, we would leave it to those agencies to make that determination.
Thank you, Jeff. And then just to tack on the end of that, the police department, Imperial Police Department specific, does enforce state law and regulations. So that just kind of goes in line with what Mr. Lamore has said. Jeff, I think this is going to be for you again as well. Do businesses that were previously identified as essential businesses need to also implement the worksite specific plan?
They're not required to. It's not this transition or these worksite specific plans. The industry guidance documents are for those businesses. And that's a great question, because it makes sense that they would. You would think that they would, but the intent by the governor's office or by the state is that for those businesses that were considered, that weren't open, that were non-essential, that are now moving towards reopening, having these plans in place. In theory, those businesses that are currently operating should have some type of plan in place to address with regards to social distancing, which you see a lot of them already have in place. They have preventative measures. They've implemented preventative measures, and they put that in place. You'll see it a lot of the grocery stores. You see the plexiglass separators. You'll see in the aisles of some of the grocery stores as well, the one-way aisle markers to minimize, to enhance social distancing, to minimize people crossing paths and so forth. So a lot of them already have these preventative measures. Even a lot of the businesses that are currently closed, a lot of them have already taken upon themselves to start getting their business ready for opening or to open by implementing preventative measures within their business. So this plan that's required, it is for those that have been determined as non-essential, those who are moving towards the reopening aspect of it. Obviously, we come across a business that is considered essential and they're deficient in some of their preventative measures. We would encourage them to submit a plan. We'd walk them through that. I've met with a number of businesses and have provided them copies of, as well as I provided them kind of feedback on what I have observed walking through their business, but also we provided them the template to complete to kind of help guide them through developing their preventative measures as well.
Next question that we've received, what is the proper protocol for a business to enact if an employee tests positive even after following the worksite specific plan? Example would be Walmart. And how long should a business be shut down, if at all, for disinfecting?
So if we have an employee that has tested positive. So first of all, if we have an employee that has symptoms, whether owner or employee, staff, if they're screening themselves at home, they really should stay home. So if they have fever, with chills, if they have the body aches, if they know they're sick, regardless if it's COVID or not, they should stay home. They should minimize the spread of any type of illness to their coworkers, to the community. That's just good common sense practice. Specifically for COVID, if there is an employee who may be asymptomatic and they are tested and is determined to be positive and they have spent time at work, if they're positive, then at that point they need to refrain from going to work. in the past, the standard you'll see on CDC, typically it's 14 days of isolation or quarantine prior to re-engaging, going out, or going back to work. That as we know, this whole process has been fairly fluid, and the guidelines that we're receiving now it's not much different, but essentially it is 10 days from date of onset of symptoms, 10 days including 3 consecutive days of no symptoms, no fevers, no body aches, no symptoms. So having those 2 in hand, then in essence, they can go back to work. As far as the business should shut down and go through and do a thorough cleaning, especially in those areas where that employee was if they were able to identify, let's say, for example, it's a business office and the employee was somewhat limited to coming in through the entryway and in their office, and maybe they never stepped foot out in the warehouse. They don't necessarily need to do the entire, the warehouse as well, but they should focus on those main areas that employee has been around, and they should do a thorough cleaning of those areas, of the contact surfaces, get the business ready, make sure that they have their preventative mechanisms, preventative plans in place. They hopefully are at this point, they're continuing to monitor their employees, whether they're being self-monitored at home. They have a plan in place to deal with screening. And then at that point, they can open up. They're not required to obtain approval to open up. The idea is that they're going to mindfully or thoughtfully go through, properly clean their facility, and then prepare it to reopen for business.
We do have a tack on to that. Test results are taking 3 to 4 days. Should all employees of that business be sent to be tested?
If they're not, so again, we encourage everyone to be tested. I mean, that's something that we would like to see as much as possible. If we're talking about contact exposure or contact exposure or possible contact exposure, if they're displaying symptoms, if they feel they have symptoms, then they definitely should go and be tested. They definitely should be tested. Again, what we would recommend is the PCR or molecular test. That is the nasopharyngeal test. We'd prefer to see that versus a serology. We not prefer that. They really need to do that. That is a confirmation test versus a serology. Serology is not a confirmatory or a confirmation test. If they're experiencing symptoms, then they should be tested. If they feel that they've been exposed to an individual for a long period of time, that's the time on that has varied from 5 to 10 minutes to up to as much as 15 minutes. If they believe they've been exposed to an individual who has tested positive, confirmed positive, then it would make good sense for them to go in. Are they required? No, they're not required. If they are displaying symptoms, if they have any type of symptoms, then yes, they should be. Not only isolating themselves from their immediate family and friends, but also they should refrain from obviously going to work and be symptom-free.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Last question that we've received thus far. How do I or my employees make an appointment to get tested at the fairgrounds?
So with OptumServe, they can go online. Let me pull up paperwork here. They can go online. I can give you the address. Let's see, I should have it here. My apologies, I don't have it in front of me here.
They can go online at lhi.care/COVID testing, and it's all an online registration process for them to do so. We have been told it does take some time, just due to the demand, but Jeff might have an update on that as well.
Thank you, Rebecca. Yes, it is. OptumServe is the test site. It's located in Imperial. Rebecca provided you the web link to it. You can also access it through the county's website. There's a link to the LHI website that you can also call, and there is a number. It's 888-634-1123. They can call and to be scheduled, and they don't accept walk-ins. It is appointment only. They have to schedule an appointment to be tested. We are in the process. We've been approved for a second site. We are working on the logistics to where that second site will be. We're also in the process of moving to the Calexico area. We're moving to 707 Dual Street in Calexico. So if anybody any of the folks that are watching this right now, if they have already registered and are scheduled, if they are scheduled after June 1st, then the address that pops up on their site where they'll be tested is the Calexico site. We are about a week out with regards to scheduling. So we have right now all of our sites, all of our Optum site, all of the schedules. There's essentially 132 sample or specimen collections per day, so 132 slots per day for scheduling purposes. So those are being booked, and then we're booked, as I said, a week out. So if they anything after scheduling after June 1st, they will be going to Calexico. Again, we're looking for we're waiting to be approved, or we've been approved for the second site. We're hoping to site that either in Imperial or on the north end in Brawley. So that will be coming here pretty quickly. And just to remind those who have scheduled appointments, one of the things, again, we would like to see everybody get tested as much as possible. We are seeing that the Optum service site the scheduling is full. We are filling 132 slots every day, but what we're also encountering is we're starting to see a number of no-shows. So in fact, yesterday of the 132, we had 34 individuals that did not show up for their appointments. It's really important if we're going to commit to scheduling it that they show up and do the test. The numbers are very important. That's one of the mechanisms that we're looking at with regards to our testing positivity rates. Again, getting those numbers down, we need people to be in there and test. And if someone is, and given we're a week out, there are people waiting to get in. So it's really important that people, if they are scheduled, to stay committed to that schedule and get that test done. The turnaround time, the lab that's conducting the analysis is Quest Lab. We're looking at somewhat of a lag statewide with regards to getting the test results back. It is actually a 3 to 5 day lag time with regards to that. They've committed to doing it within 48 hours, but the demand is so much that it's pushed it out to some degree. I know that they're working on bringing it back down to that 48-hour time frame, but right now it's about 3 to 5 days out.
Jeff and Rebecca, we do have a tack on to the testing question. Can businesses schedule all their employees to get tested at OptumServe?
Yes, they can. They can contact me. You can provide them with my email, or you can call Imperial County Environmental Health at 442-265-1888. Or you can email me at jefflemore@co.imperial.ca.us. That's Jeff Lemore at co.imperial.ca.us. And so, yes, we can schedule, we can block off times. The way that the state or the OptumServe is requiring that to be done is we have to do it a week in advance. So we need the number of individuals, and then we would actually block out that time slot. And it's critical that if we are blocking out, we've done this a couple times now, that if, for example, we're blocking out 30 individuals, that there's a time frame on how the 30 individuals show up. They don't all show up at once, so they need to make sure we follow that. But yes, to answer your question, it can be done, and it's about a week out to do that.
There are, regarding testing, can you indicate what testing sites count towards our county numbers? Reason being is there are some doing testing that it's understood that they're not counting towards the Imperial County's positive cases.
Right. So those tests, there are a number of providers, private providers, as well as the community testing site, and we also have a private provider that's providing the community testing site. All of those tests that are done that are the molecular or the PCR analysis, the swab, the nasal swab, that is the test. Those are the tests that are being done. The confirmatory or confirmation diagnostic tests that are done, those are the only tests that are being counted towards our numbers. The serology tests are not.
Thank you. And last question I've received here. Why can't we close the border, and how is the border affecting our positivity rate?
Rebecca, do you want to respond to that?
So can you repeat the question? Sorry about that.
Yes, and sorry, it's a two-part. Why can't we close the border, and how is the border affecting our positivity rate?
So the first portion of that is it's technically a federal decision to make. We do not control the border, nor our ports of entry or anything to that effect. I know the president, through the Department of Homeland Security, has put in some restrictions when it comes to travel, limiting that to essential travel only. My understanding is that has decreased our numbers drastically as far as crossings. I believe the CBP, Customs and Border Protection, did report that their crossings have reduced at least 50%. So that's not necessarily, as I mentioned, something that the county has control or authority to do. But I understand their concerns. Two, is it affecting or impacting our numbers? So
they have to be a legal resident.
Those that are impacting our numbers are if they are a legal resident here of and have a residency here in Imperial County. So those numbers, those that are being counted here, are it's being tracked through our epidemiology team out at Public Health. That is done during our contract tracing portion. So once someone has tested positive and the public health department has been informed that they were tested positive, our epidemiology team gets right on it, starts doing tracing, and through an interview process, they find out more information about the person that tested positive. Depending on the answers to the questions that they are provided, that is where epidemiology determines if they are technically a resident of Imperial County or not, and then those numbers are counted or not, depending, as I said, depending on those answers. So I can't tell you specifically what those numbers might look like or how it's directly impacting us, but I can just tell you the process and what's included and what's not included in our numbers.
Thank you. That concludes all of the Q&As. Jeff, did you have a comment to that?
Yeah, it's just real quick. Actually, just going back to the earlier comment, I did state that the swabs are the only tests that are being counted. There is one test an additional test that's being counted, and that is the Abbott test that currently the hospitals are utilizing, and it is a serology test. That's the only one that I'm aware of that is being utilized. All the rest of the tests, or all the numbers that are being counted, are those that are the PCR molecular tests. Just wanted to clarify.
Thank you. All right, so I would like to thank all of you that tuned in here for our business community and for registering, for being so patient with us having to postpone from last week. We do apologize for that, but as you can see, the changes in information coming out from the state is fluid, and we continue to try to adapt and overcome and get that information out to you. I think one of the important things here is that you all have access to the information, so as it changes, you're able to get that and apply it to your place of business. So as I said earlier, all of the links, resources, and documents that have been shown and discussed here, as well as the contact information for the presenters, will be sent out to you, so you have that. And then if there's any follow-up questions to that, please, reply back. The city is here to be a resource, as is all of these others that have been so great and working so diligently to move us into the next stages of reopening. A special thank you to the County of Imperial for all of your continued efforts and dedication. Public health was not on here today, but is obviously well represented. But their teams continue to move us forward as quickly as possible, but being mindful of the data to make sure that we do so in a very safe manner. Recovery Task Force, thank you very much for all that you're doing for the business community Imperial Chamber for representing our Imperial community and being that resource to them, and IVSBDC for all the funding so we can make sure people get on their feet as quickly as possible to move forward. That's all we have. Thank you again, and we will be in touch soon. If more information arises that constitutes more town halls, we will get that information out to you and continue to communicate as much as possible.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay healthy.
All right, so,